The last person I expected to defend me was her mother. And believe me, when I say those words, I still feel the sting in my chest. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe. Stories like this aren't supposed to happen in real life, but they do, and sometimes they hit harder than any movie script ever could. My wife, Emily, had been acting different for months. Not loud, not dramatic, quiet. The kind of quiet where she kept her phone tilted away from me, started taking work calls in the hallway, and laughed at messages she never explained. I tried not to be paranoid, because paranoia destroys marriages just as fast as betrayal. But a man knows. We always know, long before we ever admit it out loud. She told me she and her friends were planning a weekend trip. A girls' reset, she said, complete with forced enthusiasm and a bag she packed too quickly, like she'd rehearsed it. I asked simple questions. Where are you going? Who's driving? She brushed them off with that smile that used to melt me but now felt like a curtain she was holding up. Don't overthink it, she said. Funny how overthinking is always the thing cheaters accuse you of, right before they go do something worth overthinking. When she left that Friday evening, she didn't kiss me goodbye. She just said, I'll text you once we're settled. Except she didn't. I tried not to check my phone every 10 minutes. I tried to watch TV, work out, read. None of it helped. Midnight passed. Then 1. Then 2. Nothing. Around 3 in the morning, I sent a message. Everything okay? It delivered. No answer. I didn't even know I'd been blocked until I called her. And it went straight to voicemail twice. That hollow sound when the call fails? It hits like a punch to the ribs. But I forced myself to sleep, or something close to sleep. Woke up with a headache, eyes burning, stomach tight. Still no messages. Saturday dragged. Nothing from her. Nothing from her friends. Nothing from anyone. Just silence. She didn't even pretend to check in, and that silence felt louder than any argument we'd ever had. It was around 11 a.m. when I heard a knock at the door. Not a casual knock. A firm, steady one. When I opened it, I froze. It was Emily's mother, Linda. She looked angry, sad, disappointed. I couldn't read it, but I felt something shift in my gut. She stepped inside without waiting for an invitation. Son, sit down, she said, and her voice wasn't soft or comforting. It was the tone someone uses when they're about to tell you something you're not ready for but desperately need to hear. I sat. She stayed standing. She was holding her phone in her hand like it weighed 100 pounds. She took a breath, then another, and finally said, She didn't go with the girls. My chest tightened. What do you mean? I asked, even though I already knew exactly what she meant. She went with a man, her mother said. And I have proof. I felt the floor tilt under me, like I'd stood up too fast. But I didn't interrupt. I didn't shout. I didn't even blink. I just stared at Linda, waiting for whatever came next, as if bracing for the world to split right down the middle. When Linda said she had proof, she didn't rush. She didn't shove her phone in my face. She didn't look eager to expose her own daughter. She looked heartbroken, like a woman who'd been carrying a weight for months and finally couldn't pretend it wasn't crushing her. She sat down across from me, folded her hands over her phone, and took a slow breath. I didn't come here to hurt you, she said, but you deserve the truth. And I'm done watching her lie to you. That sentence alone, I'm done watching her lie to you, hit harder than any screenshot could have. It meant this wasn't sudden. It meant this wasn't a one-time slip. It meant my wife had been drifting so far for so long that even her own mother had seen the pattern I was trying to deny. How long has this been going on? I asked, my voice low, almost painfully even. A while, Linda said. I didn't want to believe it. I kept hoping she'd grow out of it. She kept saying she was confused or figuring things out. But she wasn't confused. She was getting bolder. Hearing a mother talk about her daughter like that was surreal. She wasn't trying to defend Emily. She wasn't trying to soften anything. She was speaking like someone who'd finally accepted something ugly. Then she unlocked her phone, opened her gallery, and handed it to me. I didn't want to see. I didn't want to touch it. But I forced myself. And there it was, my wife standing by a silver Lexus at a gas station outside the city, wearing the exact outfit she'd left home in the night before. She wasn't with her friends. She wasn't holding her overnight bag. She was leaning into the passenger window of a man's car, smiling the kind of smile she hadn't given me in months. Another photo showed her at a roadside cafe, sitting across from the same man. Not co-workers, not friends, not anything you could explain with a "you're overreacting." The intimacy wasn't loud or dramatic. It was subtle, too comfortable, too familiar. That's the worst part about infidelity. Cheaters rarely look like they're being stolen away. They look like they've already left. "What made you take these?" I asked quietly. Linda hesitated for a moment. "Because she lied to me too," she said. "She told me she was going with the girls, but her friend posted a picture last night. They were all at Melissa's house playing cards. No trip, no outing. And Emily wasn't there." She swallowed. I drove around thinking maybe she'd gone somewhere alone to clear her head. But then I saw her car at the gas station. And I saw him. Her voice broke a little. She didn't even look guilty. I sat back, feeling the numbness move up my spine like a slow, cold wave. The strange pain is supposed to feel sharp, but that moment didn't. It felt more like someone pulled the plug inside me, and everything warm just drained out. That I didn't yell. I didn't slam anything. I just said, "Okay, so she's with him now." Linda nodded. "They went to Oak Ridge Lodge," she said. "I followed them there. It's a small resort, about an hour and a half away. I didn't see them go inside, but I saw him check them in." She paused. "He paid. Not her." My stomach tightened. That detail was too real, too specific, too intimate. "Do you know who he is?" I asked. Linda shook her head. "No. Younger than her. Maybe early 30s. Dark hair. Athletic. I've never seen him before." I rubbed my face, trying to breathe normally. "Why come to me with this?" I finally asked. Linda's eyes softened. "Because you've always treated her well. Because you've worked so hard for this marriage. Because I warned her so many times not to throw you away." She shook her head, a bitter breath escaping. "And because she won't tell you the truth. She'd lie to you until you were the one apologizing." That part hurt more than the photos, because it was true. Emily had a way of turning every conversation into something I was responsible for. If she came home late, I was too controlling. If she hid her phone, I was invading her privacy. If she pulled away, I was misreading her stress. Linda reached across the table and touched my hand gently. "This isn't your fault," she said. "She made her choices, and now you need to make yours." Her voice wasn't angry. It was steady, like someone guiding you through a storm you've tried pretending wasn't coming. I asked her to email me the photos. She did immediately. No hesitation, no drama, just quiet determination. When her phone chimed confirming the email was sent, she stood up. "I'm staying out of whatever you decide to do," she said. "I'll support you, but you need space to think." She put a hand on my shoulder. "I'm so sorry, son." Then she left, closing the door softly behind her. I sat alone, staring at nothing, feeling the house echo with her absence and Emily's absence and something heavier. Clarity. People think the moment of betrayal is the worst part. It isn't. The worst part is the sudden silence afterward. The calm that feels like it's waiting for your next move. And I already knew mine. I didn't move from that chair for a long time after Linda left. It felt like the entire house had shifted, like the walls were listening, like the air itself had thickened with a truth too heavy to ignore. When you finally see something for what it is, you can't unsee it. You can't go back to pretending. And I think some part of me had been waiting for this, waiting for the moment the fog would clear and I'd stop making excuses for a woman who'd stopped being my partner months ago. I looked down at my phone at the photos Linda sent. My hands didn't even shake. Maybe they were too numb. Or maybe I'd been preparing for this moment without realizing it. Seeing Emily with him, her posture, her smile, the ease in her body, it wasn't the betrayal that shocked me. It was how comfortable she looked betraying me. Like she hadn't struggled with it at all. Like she hadn't thought about me even once. I should have cried. I should have yelled. I should have broken something. But none of that happened. My mind went cold, clear, focused. I stood up slowly and walked into our bedroom. The room that used to feel warm used to feel like a shared space. Now it felt like a stage set after the show ended. Empty, artificial, meaningless. I opened her closet. Half her clothes were gone. Not in a messy rush. Picked deliberately. Selected. Packed. Prepared. She'd been planning this trip with precision, knowing exactly what she wouldn't need to bring back on Sunday. I checked her dresser, same thing. Jewelry pouch missing. Makeup bag gone. Even her favorite necklace, the one I bought her for our anniversary, wasn't hanging on its hook. That one hurt, not because of the necklace itself, but because she chose to take it with her to him. I went into the bathroom. Her toothbrush was gone too. That detail stopped me. People forget a charger, forget socks, forget a hairbrush. But nobody forgets a toothbrush unless they're not planning to come home that night. I swallowed hard, leaned on the sink, and stared at myself in the mirror. I looked older, tired, like a man who'd been carrying a weight for too long and finally dropped it on his own foot. And right then, the anger flickered. Not explosive, not wild, controlled, focused. A cold flame, burning steady. I didn't deserve this. I didn't earn this. I didn't drive her into another man's arms. She walked there on her own two legs. I paced through the house, letting the reality sink in. Every room had pieces of her, but none of them felt like her anymore. The house felt like a museum of a life I wasn't part of. I walked into the kitchen and saw her mug drying on the rack. She'd used it yesterday morning. She'd kissed my cheek, told me to have a good day, and then spent the evening with another man. People think cheaters always act guilty. Most don't. They act normal, relaxed, even cheerful. Their guilt doesn't show because it's not guilt. They've already built a world in their head where they're justified. I picked up the mug, turned it in my hand, and placed it in the cupboard without a word. I needed clarity. That meant information. I opened her laptop, the one she always kept, for work. She had no idea I knew her password. I didn't check her messages. I didn't check her photos. I didn't need to. Instead, I opened her email and searched the name of the hotel Linda mentioned, Oak Ridge Lodge. And there it was, an email from the reservation service confirming a weekend stay for two under her name. Booked weeks ago. She hadn't even bothered to hide it. That detail didn't shock me. It disgusted me. There's a difference. Disgust is quieter, heavier, more final. And then another detail hit me. She'd used our joint credit card to pay for it. Our money, our account, our future spent on someone else. I sat back, letting that sink in. A marriage doesn't end because of cheating. It ends the moment you realize the person you're with stopped respecting you long before the cheating happened. I forwarded the hotel confirmation to myself, logged out, and closed her laptop. My mind wasn't racing anymore. It was calculating. I replayed the last few months. The coldness, the excuses, the sudden gym routine, the new clothes, the late nights that didn't add up, the girls' nights that never matched what her friends posted. All puzzle pieces I'd been forcing into the wrong places. And the worst part? She looked at me every day like I was the one drifting away. That's the trick cheaters use. They make you feel guilty so they don't have to. I grabbed my keys and sat in the car for a long moment, breathing. I wasn't going to drive to the hotel. I didn't want a scene. I didn't want to catch them together. There was nothing to catch. Linda had already shown me everything. The truth was already here. Instead, I drove to the park near our house, parked in the shade, and sat in the quiet, watching people walk their dogs, push strollers, laugh, talk. Life kept moving even while mine felt like it had stopped. And in that stillness, something inside me aligned. I wasn't going to confront her with rage. I wasn't going to beg, or argue, or demand explanations she'd twist into my fault. No, I was going to do something she never expected. Something simple, something final. I was going to let her come home, let her walk back into this house, thinking she could spin a story, manipulate the truth, twist my emotions like she always did. And then, calmly, without shouting, without drama, I was going to show her everything. The photos, the reservation, the proof, and the choice she made long before she ever packed her bag. Because sometimes silence is louder than any scream. Sometimes calm is more terrifying than anger. And I already knew. When she walked through that door, the last thing she'd expect from me was the truth. Saturday evening felt endless. The house was too quiet, too still, like it was holding its breath along with me. I sat on the couch, not watching TV, not scrolling my phone, just listening to the ticking of the wall clock. Every sound felt amplified. The hum of the fridge, the settling of the floorboards, the distant sound of a car passing outside. Normally, I would have distracted myself, played music, cleaned something, gone for a run. But not that night. That night, I wanted the silence. I wanted the weight of it. Pain becomes clearer in silence, and what I felt wasn't chaotic heartbreak. It was a slow, steady understanding, a kind of emotional arithmetic where all the variables finally lined up. The truth stopped being a question and became a roadmap. I didn't pace. I didn't keep checking the door. I didn't even wonder if she'd call, because I already knew she wouldn't. Cheaters don't check in. Not when they think they're safe inside their fantasy world. They only remember you when the fantasy runs out of fuel. The clock hit 10 p.m. before my phone buzzed for the first time all day. A text from Emily. No apology. No explanation. Just, "We're turning in early. You okay?" I stared at the message, not surprised. The wording was perfect, vague, distant, safe. She wasn't asking how I was. She was checking if I suspected anything. It was a temperature check, nothing more. I didn't respond. I let the message sit unread, even though I'd already read it twice. I knew her pattern. If I didn't reply, she'd blame me for being distant when she came home. She'd twist my silence into an argument about communication. Not this time. Not anymore. Midnight came and went. I slept on the couch, not because I couldn't sleep in our bed, but because I didn't want to. The bed still smelled like her perfume. The couch smelled like nothing. Nothing was easier. Sunday morning arrived slowly, sunlight creeping in through the blinds like it wasn't sure it was welcome. I sat up, rubbed my eyes, and felt that familiar heaviness in my chest. Not heartbreak, anticipation. Today was the day she'd come home. Today was the day everything pretended would stay hidden. Wouldn't. I made coffee, ate toast, and moved through the rooms with a strange sense of calm, like someone preparing for a meeting instead of a confrontation. My phone buzzed at 9:14 a.m. Emily, heading back soon. Traffic looks light. I didn't respond. Around noon, I heard her car pull into the driveway. The sound didn't make my heart race. It didn't make me panic. It made me stand up slowly, straighten my shirt, and sit back down on the couch. I wanted her to walk in, look at me, and not see chaos, just clarity. The front door opened, and she stepped inside with a brightness that wasn't real. "Hey," she said, forcing a smile. Her hair was messy, but in a styled way, the kind of messy women have when they try to disguise being with someone else. She dropped her bag by the door. "You're home early," she said, like she wasn't the one returning from a lie. "Did you miss me?" I just looked at her. My silence made her blink. "Everything okay?" she asked. I nodded toward the living room chair. "Sit," I said calmly. She froze for a fraction of a second. Not long enough to be obvious, but long enough to show her instincts had caught something. She sat slowly, placing her hands on her knees. "You're scaring me," she whispered. I picked up my phone, opened the email Linda sent, and turned the screen toward her without a word. The first photo, her leaning into the car window. The second, her at the cafe. The third, the hotel reservation. The confirmation with her name on it. Emily went pale so fast it was like watching a candle blown out. What is that?" she stammered. I didn't answer. I didn't explain. I didn't give her a rope to climb. I just waited. And the waiting broke her faster than shouting ever could. She swallowed hard. This isn't what it looks like. The oldest lie in the book." I stared at her, not blinking. Her eyes darted across the screen, searching for a loophole in reality. "That's my coworker," she tried. He needed a ride. And we just grabbed food because we were tired. I turned the phone slightly. He paid for the room, I said quietly. She froze completely. I didn't stay with him, she said, her voice shaking. But her eyes were already glossy, and her breathing was uneven. She was cornered by her own actions. I leaned back, keeping my voice calm. Your mother came here yesterday. That sentence cracked her mask. Her breath hitched. And my mother? She saw you, I said. She followed you. She watched him check you in. Emily covered her mouth, her shoulders curling inward. Oh my God, she whispered. She came to you? She told you? She showed me, I corrected gently. Everything. Emily's denial collapsed instantly. She didn't defend herself. She didn't blame stress or loneliness or mistakes. She broke. I didn't mean for it to get this far, she said through tears. I felt lost, and he listened, and I raised my hand slightly, stopping her. I'm not interested in excuses, I said. Just the truth. She sobbed into her hands, shaking her head. I didn't want to hurt you. A bitter, quiet irony hit me. Cheaters always say that after months of actions that did nothing but hurt, that I let her cry. I didn't comfort her. I didn't touch her. I didn't even raise my voice. Because the betrayal wasn't loud, it was silent. Slow. Methodical. She lifted her head, eyes red. What happens now? She whispered. That I took a deep breath, feeling the finality settle into place like the last puzzle piece. Now, I said evenly, you tell me everything, and then we decide how to end this with dignity. She opened her mouth like she wanted to argue, but the words died. She nodded slowly, wiping her face. She could feel it. My calm was not forgiveness. It was closure. And closure is the one thing cheaters are never prepared for. She started talking slowly at first, like every word hurt her jaw. Then the confession spilled out of her in uneven waves. Stops, starts, choked breaths. Long silences where she stared at the floor like it could swallow her whole. She told me his name, how they met, how it started as nothing, the most predictable and insulting phrase a cheating spouse can ever use. She said they were just talking at work, just venting, just sharing things she didn't tell me because she didn't want to worry me. Then she said she didn't know how it turned into flirting. She said she didn't notice the shift. But people always notice. You don't accidentally step into someone else's bed. There are 100 tiny decisions you make before the big one, and every single one is intentional. She told me the trip wasn't spontaneous. They'd been planning it for over a month. She said he was the one who brought it up first, that she refused at first, that she tried to stop herself. Another predictable line. She said she didn't mean to lie to me, but she had to because she didn't want to disappoint me. I didn't interrupt her, not once. I didn't ask questions. I didn't feed into her narrative. I just watched her unravel and listened to the truth she tried so hard to hide. Not because I needed the details anymore, but because I wanted her to hear herself. Cheaters rarely hear their own stories out loud. They avoid the full picture because, if they said it plainly, they'd sound exactly like the villains they pretend not to be. She cried harder when she told me she blocked me because she didn't want her phone buzzing while she was with him. She didn't want distractions. She said it like she was describing dropping her phone under a cushion, not deliberately erasing me from her world for a night. She told me they spent the evening at the lodge restaurant, laughing, drinking, talking about life changes. Then they went up to the room. She didn't describe what happened there. She didn't have to. Some things are so obvious they don't need narration. The pain didn't hit me like a stab. It hit like a cold hand pressing on my chest, steady and unrelenting. When she finished talking, she covered her face again. I'm so sorry, she whispered through her fingers. I never meant for you to find out like this. That line cemented everything. She wasn't sorry she did it. She was sorry she got caught. Sorry her fantasy world collapsed before she could rewrite the ending. Sorry her mother turned out to be the only one brave enough to expose her. I sat forward. Do you love him? I asked quietly. She hesitated, and hesitation is its own answer. I don't know, she said. I don't think so. I think I just felt seen. That word always comes up in these stories, seen. Like your spouse is supposed to be a light switch, always on, never flickering. Like attention is oxygen and loyalty is secondary. Did you ever think about what this would do to me? I asked. She nodded, tears dripping onto her jeans. I did, she said. But I kept telling myself you'd be fine. You're strong. The irony almost made me laugh. She'd counted on my strength to cushion her betrayal. She'd relied on my stability to steady her as she leaned into someone else. She mistook my patience for blindness. I sat back and breathed slowly. Here's what's going to happen, I said. She looked up, eyes swollen, waiting. We're done. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't tremble. I didn't need to. The calm in my voice was colder than anything I'd ever said to her. You made your choice before you ever left the house. I'm just accepting it now. Her breath broke. Please, can't we try to fix this? I'll go to therapy. I'll cut him off. She leaned forward, reaching for me. I moved my hand away. Emily, I said softly, you ended this marriage the moment you blocked me so you could be with him in peace. She sobbed again, but I didn't feel pulled toward her the way I used to. Something inside me had snapped clean. Not jagged, not messy. Clean. A boundary formed where there hadn't been one before. She begged. She pleaded. She promised things I knew she'd never be able to deliver. That's the stage cheaters hit when they finally realize the person they thought would tolerate anything won't. She curled into herself, shaking, saying she didn't want to lose me, that she didn't want to lose this life, this home, this future. But all of that was past tense the moment she chose someone else. Eventually, her tears slowed into small hiccups. She wiped her face, looking emptied out. What do you want me to do? She asked in a small voice. Pack your things? I said. She stared at me like I'd slapped her. Now? Yes. She searched my face for hesitation, softness, anything she could still manipulate. She found nothing. Slowly, as if walking through water, she rose from the chair and went to the bedroom. I didn't follow. I sat on the couch, listening to drawers opening, hangers sliding, the zipper of her suitcase. Every sound was a closing chapter. She came back out after a long while, suitcase in hand, makeup streaked, shoulders slumped. She paused by the door, looking back at me with the kind of expression people give when they realize too late what they threw away. Can I call you later? She asked. No, I said. If you need something logistical, email me. Otherwise, no. She nodded like she'd expected the answer but still hoped for mercy. She opened the door, stepped onto the porch, and lingered one last second. I really did love you, she whispered. I didn't respond. She closed the door behind her, and just like that, she was gone. The silence that followed wasn't painful. It wasn't empty. It was peaceful. A new kind of quiet. A beginning, not an ending. I sat there for a long time, letting the stillness fill the space she used to occupy. Then I picked up her mug from the cupboard, carried it to the trash, and let it drop. It landed with a dull thud. Final. Clean. True. If you've made it this far, don't forget to subscribe. There's more ahead, and sometimes the hardest stories are the ones that teach us the most.